নিশি জাপ করে মন বলে ভজকালি।
O playful mind, meditate on the mystery of Kali, using any method of worship you please, or simply breathe day and night her holy name as the living seed of transforming power planted by the teacher in your heart. As you wander through countryside or city, feel that you are moving through Mother Kali. All sounds that you hear are her natural mantras, repeating spontaneously as the entire world worships her. Goddess Kali constitutes the letters of every alphabet, and each letter secretly bears the flower of her name. The singer of this song is overwhelmed and cries, "Wonderful, wonderful! The Divine Mother exists fully through every living creature." O wandering poet, whatever food or drink you receive, offer as oblation into the sacrificial fire of your body, and meditate intensely on her encompassing reality.
We have returned to the second half of the first class on mantra, a three-part series where we're going to be sharing lots of things about the mantra. I think I started off the first half of this class with some diving rather deep into it as far as the meaning of bijams, hidden seed words, how eternal they are and how everything here gets connected back to them, like the saying Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadhachite, the beautiful peace chant that we have memorized, one of the 7 peace chants that are traditional classic ones, how everything outside is infinite and everything inside is infinite, and from the inside the outside has come. But since it's all infinite and endless, then only infinite remains, so all this Brahman kind of steering of the mind back to those truths, or maybe that one main truth of Advaita Vedanta that allows us to be able to look at all this as having a connection to the ultimate source. The relationship between spirit and matter, as how the Svetashvatara Upanishad puts that. And Tantra also has ways of sharing that, and in Samkhya, the idea of Purusha and Prakriti, and the sentient conscious principle and the insentient material principle, and how they have a relationship, so that it doesn't all get so extreme as the world doesn't exist and I'm transcending it completely, because when I go beyond it, then it seems to get dissolved, but actually what you dissolve just goes back to its source of origin. In this case would be the word, or Om, as we mentioned in the first half, although we had some technical difficulties and some of that might have gotten cut out in our early part of this class. But anyway, that beginning is the word kind of idea that we found in Jesus' teaching. And of course, going much earlier than that in India to the primal word, the unstruck sound they called it. So it strikes me today that we're sitting here also on an auspicious day with the birthday of Swami Adbhutananda, who was one of the 16 direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna that gathered around him. And the great miracle, he was called Sri Ramakrishna's miracle because he came as a rather simple man with very good character and found the master, came from Bihar, I think, and then came into Bengal. Found a master there at the Kali temple and became his devotee and gained complete enlightenment in that one lifetime. So we're sitting here on his birthday and teaching this beautiful transmission of wisdom about the mantra. And we can show you something here on the live streaming camera, that screen, that about him and some of the things he would say about spiritual life. Some of the things that he heard from Holy Mother and so forth, like not to find fault with each other and spread rumors, and things that people have done in the past that are very detrimental, even if they've done it with a so-called right intention. Those are coming from people with these spikes in their prana. As we said in the first half, they don't have their prana settled and their issues settled, so they're superimposing all sorts of things over the truth and not sticking to the Dharma and so forth. So that kind of discrimination, as we saw in the 2 charts we just looked at, The Walker of the Skies by Lord Vashishta, that was a teaching from the story in Yoga Vashishta. How to walk the skies means how to go inside, and the mantra might usher you through certain barriers or through certain gates. They say that there's a deity at every level of consciousness as you're transcending form, going from the lower worlds to the higher worlds, lower heavens to higher heavens. And so there's guardians at the gate, they call that, or in Tibetan Buddhism, Harukas and Dakinis and Sakinis and so forth. So there's these guardians that you're going to have to appease as you go through these levels. So the mantra is able to do that. Particularly Mother Mantra, they say, will get you into any level of consciousness. And there are songs about death actually stopping and parting the way when you show him, Yama, the Lord of Death, when you speak this mantra to him in your mind. So you will have practiced this all your life. And as we said, there had been qualifications that you adhered to. When you had a teacher, it's best to get a teacher first, and then gives you the mantra, which happened in my personal case, and then told me about the mantra, how to use it. And I gathered information about it later, more information, which I'm sharing to you in these Dharma Art Wisdom Charts, we're calling them, whose website is about to open, which will show you, some 150 of them, but there's another 150 after that we still have to post. But Dharma Art Wisdom Charts will be available to people to see these up close and even purchase them for their walls, because we'd like these to be, if not on the walls, even replacing pictures that maybe don't convey this higher ideal of Dharma that we want in every household for people's own good. And then it can learn about things like mantras, the difference between a household that had a mantra given by a guru and a household that didn't have a mantra and didn't have a guru would be a vast difference to note. And the effect at the end of the life would also be very noticeable, how people were free of fear in the case of those who had a mantra to shore them up and go inside with. It says going inside at death is just the same as going inside in deep sleep, and it's just the same as going inside in meditation. It's just that you're forced to do it at the time of death. But if you had practiced your whole life with a mantra that helped you die, like the Zen Buddhists say, you die on your cushion, you see, zafu. They're waiting for you to do that in meditation. So there's a way of taking the ego out of the quotient. You see, the Shariran has been informing the Sharira, so the Sharira finally says, well, hell with this, I think I want to be the Shariran. And so at that point the ego gasps, and its last death gasp, and then all of a sudden you're the witness from then on. How to connect the word to the mind, to the intellect, to the witness, to the ego, and then to the witness is a known pathway that Shankara teaches. And then finally the witness to Brahman, because Brahman is the soul of everything. So a lot of this initiated by one of these truly great practices called mantra. So I wanted to give you some facts about mantra first. Then we're still going to be talking about some of the prerequisites to preparing for the mantra. Some of those you had done as a lifetime practice, like getting your food together and getting your energy good and your senses under control and your prana. Those probably took more time, but this only takes a few minutes of your day. So we'll look at that in a minute, how there is a preparation for your ongoing year of practicing sadhana, but there's also a preparation for your daily worship. So that's how, because you can say, I'm going to meditate 365 times a year, and maybe miss the goal by doing half that or less. So you have these good plans for your year, and maybe you really are serious and sincere about expanding your mind's capacity to know Brahman, as the Upanishads tell us. But maybe you're not going to come to it. So if you have a daily practice that you adhere to it in preparation, then that's also very powerful. Like going to the Ganges River and bathing and preparing your food. And in India they live their lives this way every day, so they're not just putting it off to, I think I'll do that later. I forgot to meditate today, I'll do it tomorrow. It's like saying, I forgot to breathe today. So you come home blue-faced and dead. Or over a whole span of time you have a culture without any prana. Like here in Hawaii, they called the white people haole because they thought we didn't breathe, so we turned white. See, no, they don't have any life force going in them. Mana, they call it here. So mana and prana, mind. These words have power in any culture. So mana is this life force of the land, in Hawaiian, but mana in Sanskrit means the whole mind, where everything is contained, all the land, all the 5 elements, all the trees, all the grass, and they all have words like trees and grass and water, and they're in mantras, they're in slokas, so you put them in mantras, and you're able to master that. So we'll look at these requisites, but first I wanted to show you one of these charts that has a new colorization that are fundamental facts about the mantra. And I mentioned it before the break, so we can inform ourselves on a very practical level about what they've been saying about mantra and how it's become explained to us over millennia. Of course, in America, just since Swami Vivekananda arrived in 1893, we became more available to us, this dharmic teaching. And we began to get it then from the Buddhists after that, and so the yogis came, and and then there were people that came to try and sell you mantras and so forth, which is not a good idea. I mean, I went to my teacher and he asked him for initiation. He made me wait for a year. He didn't say, well, that'll be $1,000. Please, come in the back room with me, you see. I mean, this is ridiculous to have people doing this in the name of teachers. And when the real thing is, this transmission of wisdom to get you enlightened, not, some ruse to take something pure and beautiful and use it in some way that desecrates the principle, turns people off of, turns intelligent people off of great teachings like this. So, they'll begin to call it, a foreign religion or something that's not going to help me, or it's the devil's work, or whatever moniker they want to put on it, when it's the Savior. It's the self-savior. It's what you can do to help yourself. And it's all just in a few little words. So don't get me started, as they say, but let's read through these fundamental facts so we know the real facts about the mantra. Sri Sharda Devi gives this great teaching about it. God cannot be realized through japa, worship, and meditation. So if you heard that much from her and then walked out of the room saying, well, then why am I here? You see, you should have stayed longer for hear her say, God is only realized through His grace. If you walked out of the room then, you'd say, go looking for grace, without any of the teachings, you see. But she goes on to say, nonetheless, one must perform japa and meditation, for they can remove the impurities of one's mind. Then God's grace becomes revealed. Finally, you see, that you have to do both. That you can't have some sort of goal-oriented intention in your practice that I'm going to get enlightenment through japa or through mantra. You could say that, and it would be true if you practiced. But at the time you say it, you're thinking, that it's that this is going to lead you directly to enlightenment, and that you're already enlightened. This kind of idea, but you didn't, as I just said, do your 365 meditations a year to make with the mantra to make sure your mind was getting purified. Then you knew the meaning of the mantra, and it was transmitted to you not by a hitchhiker or by some ordinary person, but by a teacher who had practiced it his or her whole life, in a lineage that went back to the time when they walked the skies every day, you see, or every night. I mean, you walk the skies every night when you go dreaming, but you don't know it. See? Then you reach a formless place where everything is beautiful, but you don't, called deep sleep, but you don't know it, you see. You don't bring anything back from that. And you can live here on this plane and do your everyday life and not get anything from it. See? What is it that extracts essence from waking, dreaming, and deep sleep? Or do you just go through them in rounds for lifetimes, never knowing what you're doing? There's no intelligence behind it, and your consciousness never gets realized. The sharira never informs the sharira, you see. So this one quote is very beautiful in the fact that she mentions these three great things: japa, worship, and meditation. And you can see then how Bhakti Yoga and Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga go together as another kind of two wings of the bird that get the aspirant off the ground. So it's also nice to know that God's grace will give you that realization, so probably nobody gets it. And I think the luminaries all agree with that in one way or another. How can I say God's grace came to me and all of a sudden my ignorance was gone, utterly gone? It's a song in India. I woke up one morning and my ignorance was gone, utterly gone. So what happened last night in sleep, or what happened in my life, my flood of days, as the sun god says, that led up to this morning when I woke one day and my ignorance was gone and I didn't remember what it was like anymore? That's because it didn't ever exist. You allowed it existence, and then you took it away. So the Lord's grace came upon me in the form of my own self-realization. And why did it take me so long? Well, then, that's a beautiful quote to start things off, but you can see here the mantra in bold there is the science of cosmic sound, is one way of putting it in English. And the quote there is, through the science of mantra, the kundalini will awaken. Repetition of God's name will lead to the goal. So again, the name with the bijams inside the mantra, let's keep going to look at that. The mantra is Vedic in origin. The rishis of ancient Vedic times practiced mantra and other austerities to realize God. So these are all quotes from Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sharda Devi, and maybe a few from others. So Vedic in origin. I would probably venture to say here that Vedic Tantric in origin, because the Vedas and the Tantras have been rivers that have been running, two rivers side by side with each other from time out of mind. And so they mingle their waters and come apart. It's like one stream, really. But you wouldn't want to take away from Tantra the fact that they've always proceeded by power words and deities, too. They're known for that. Next is, it's unique among spiritual practices. I was inferring that in the first half somewhat. Such is the power of the mantra that, in addition to the mind, it also purifies the body. That was told to me by my own guru, Swami Sheshanandaji Maharaj, peace and bliss be upon him, when I got my mantra in my early 20s. And he said that, he said, this will purify your body so that you'll be accepted by other knowers of God. So he showed it to me on my hand first and gave me the mantra and how to do it on my fingers. And he said there will be an energy, he actually told me this, there will be an energy from repeating that on your hand, in your right hand, that will then go into your body through the nerves, the nadis and so forth, and come into the body and make it pure, see. And so by that time you've probably practiced eating pure food and controlling your senses, if we want to go back to the chart, because I was doing all that for almost a decade before I went to Swami Sheshanandaji. So I was setting everything up. I became vegetarian as soon as I left home, and started studying Shankara and the scriptures as soon as I left home. This was at 19. So in my own case, it was just like, as soon as I got away from mundane human convention and Western upbringing, and I had it rather good compared to other people I've talked to in the West, then I went straight to, as Krishna says in the Gita, catching on the thread of my yoga practice from last lifetimes. At the time I didn't quite know it that way, but I came to know then that this was in my samskaras and in my inner makeup, is why I made this abrupt change to everything as soon as I got away from conventional ways of, not limited ways of thinking. So that quote reminds me of that, how Swami Sheshananda said, this will purify your body. So again, then you'll probably have to set up your body in a way that you can walk into the house of your guru. not catch a whiff of you if your body's not clean, you see, and you know, you're eating bad food, it'll follow you in there. Well, I was just down at McDonald's and now I'm walking into the house of the ashram and expecting to get initiated. Will you give me the mantra to make my body pure? Well, give up McDonald's first, you know, then maybe I'll give you the mantra. There's some things you have to do, you see, to make sure that your veins are running with pure blood. Isn't that the first sloka we read? From pure food comes pure blood, and then pure blood comes pure energy. So all these things, you know, have to work that into your thinking process. So this is under the heading unique among spiritual practices, because this will purify the body in a very swift and profound way. You know, it's not like running or jogging, and you think maybe I'm going to get sweat and, you know, going and everything and pumping iron and all that, but you're still eating bad food, you know. So you are expelling poisons, but you're just adding them in again with your bad food, you see, or bad thinking. Yeah, so, or bad action. You know, you'll be really good at everything you do physically, but then you go out and do stupid things or violent things still, and drink, and you know, so forth. So don't oversimplify it, you know, but definitely put it under the category of this is a way of purifying your body in a very unique way, so that you can meet holy company. Remember what we just said in these two charts? There's a certain practice that leads to meeting holy company. So you see, this is how you set it up to deserve holy company. You may have it in your samskaras, but your outer life is blocking it. See? So make sure you remove those blocks. It is a universal mode of practice. The quote here is, people in other countries also are repeating recitation of the Lord's holy names. Holy Mother said that to us. She said, I have people in other countries who are Caucasian, who have white faces, she said. And so when they came to her, she would share mantra with them. And Swami Vivekananda had, of course, already shared some of that wisdom with them through yoga and through Vedantic teachings. It's effective as repetition. Well, back to the one just before that, of course, rosary is a kind of mantra, you would say. So people in other countries are also doing it and have been doing it for hundreds of years. So it's not just some mantra isn't just unique to India. The word mantra is unique to India, and the way you practice it and set things up is unique to India in many ways. You know, because again, any person, whether they're Christian or Hindu, can get a mantra or get a rosary beads and start doing it, and just doing it all wrong. They don't know the tradition, their food isn't good yet, all the things we've been saying, spikes in their prana. It's just not just the worldly people we're talking about, it's the beginning level of aspirant that we're talking about too, that can have a rosary or can have a mantra and so forth and still be uninformed and using it in the wrong way, wrong orientation. Like Buddha's Eightfold Path was all about right orientation before you do any of these things. So this is being accented in a lot of these teachings. So going on is effective as repetition. Even if your mind is not awakened, you must repeat the mantra thousands of times. So, yeah, it's all right to repeat. Repeat and repeat. If your first son doesn't do the mantra, then name your second son repeat and have him do the mantra lots of times, you see. And so then that result will begin to show on everything. His very features, like his body is pure, and then his energy, and then his senses, and his mind eventually. And might say his intellect too, and his ego get the benefits of that. It originates in the Bodhi mind. Now next week I'll show you a chart that has to do with the origin of enlightenment and what the Bodhi mind has to do with all of this. That is the mind as intellect or intelligence. Probably be better to say not just intellect, which is a storehouse of knowledge, but the intelligence, which is the first compound of consciousness is how Vivekananda described that. It's the very first thing out the door of the word. Any teacher that saw you walk into his ashram, probably whether or not you had just been eating hamburgers and eating bad food and you came in, would probably look at you and say, does he have intelligence? Is she intelligent? Because there are, again, people who are not following the rules of any regimen or practice, but they have intelligence. And they've managed to open one nadi that's very powerful, but it's probably being blocked to going beyond just intellect and reaching intelligence. Intelligence is a shining ocean of light, and intellect is just a storehouse where you keep facts and figures that your ego likes. You see, your ego likes to covet them and take credit for them. But the intelligence is different, so we probably should make that distinction, that Bodhi mind is more like intelligence. After attaining true wisdom, one sees that gods and deities are all in Maya. And of course that was a startling revelation that Holy Mother shared with us. So you're going to have to go beyond deities and all of that, but only by having the mantra that got you to the deities. It's like Vivekananda saying, we need to go beyond Quran, we need to go beyond Bible, and we need to go beyond Gita, but not by casting them out, by knowing them, reading them, studying them, and then becoming a walking Bible, Quran, Gita ourselves, a walking Upanishad, as he was called. All that knowledge was in you. It got put into books later. You read the books and then remembered it was in you, you see. Education is just the process of understanding the knowledge that was always within you, he said. So what came first? In this, it's not so hard as chicken and egg in this way, because chicken and egg is out here in Maya, but if the gods and deities are also in Maya, then you're going to have to realize what's the grander principle, what's the origin of a thing, and how do I get there through stages. And I might say that after she said that, she continued on saying, Mother, my mother is the only thing that exists there. So after gods and goddesses and Maya all go away, then it's Kali, because it's only Kali exists there. Okay, so we're going around to the next one, which is at the bottom left, grants knowledge of unity. If you weren't sure about it or certain about it before, since the mantra purifies your mind after the body and senses have gotten their due, then what it tells you is that everything was always one. Everything was always indivisible. There are no separations between you, between that, this and that, between God and man, between creation and creator, between spirit and matter. There's just one homogeneous ocean of consciousness, and the divisions have been placed there by Maya, and your mind can remove them or it can agree with them. If it agrees with them, then it's got some lifetimes in store for it to separate itself, which, ta-da, then the mantra will be given to you by a teacher who will help you do that. The quote here that I have an arrow pointing from this point is, man achieves the highest goal through the practice of japa. God has given us fingers that we might be blessed by repeating his name. Be content under all circumstances and repeat his name. That's again from Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi. So, doing of japa will set up enlightenment for you. There's probably no better way to do it than through mantra, unless you're already very well advanced when you come into the body. Maybe that you could make that exception. But if you still have desires to fulfill here, you still have some hope for the worlds of name and form, and all these things are kind of in a process of being realized by you, getting the insights, then you could take the mantra and make very swift progress. Then bottom right, mantras are associated with deities and are innumerable. I mentioned that in the first half, that Sri Sharda Devi said, when the Master was alive, he taught me all the mantras and the gods and goddesses that they connect to. In fact, I think I just read that quote ahead of time. The Master gave me mantras possessing great power, and all of them are associated with the deities. They are imbued with the power of renunciation. So words like discrimination, detachment, discernment, renunciation, austerity. You mention those 5 words, people will leave the room pretty quickly. Oh, I have to do that. But in mantra, the very words you're saying are imbued with the power to allow you to practice more detachment. So if you had a very bad day at week, a very bad week at work, or a very hard period in your life, or you faced a life-threatening disease, or you lost a loved one, or any of the many things that are happening in Maya every minute of every day around the world, and you had a mantra practice that preceded that experience, then you'd be protected and be able to reach the goal of human existence. And I've had this in my own experience with people who have come to me after the mantra was given and said, if I hadn't had that mantra, I couldn't have gotten through this recent period I just suffered. I would have perished. See? So the Guru and the tradition and the Divine Mother will be on hand to give the mantra at the right moment. That's like saying Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarva Dashadike Sharanya Tarambike Gauri Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute So, Sarva Mangala Mangalye, she's the most auspicious of all the auspicious deities. So these deities that are all in Maya, she's Mahamaya. And so these powers are all in her. Like we're talking about the 5 seats of the Devi today on our drive here. How she creates certain Shivas and certain Shaktis. Every one of us should be those, to whatever extent we can be. But she has certain seats that she will occupy, like Sadashiva, Ishvara, Avatar, and so forth. Lord Brahma. So these are certain powerful beings that she invests. They're sort of satellite stations to the main station that connect to her. And consciousness flows between them, and then from those substations into humanity at different levels. Informs the gods, the demigods, even the asuras, the celestials, the ancestors, and the humans. And if they open channels to those, like getting to the Father through the Son. So if you open a channel to the Son, then, and you're doing the rosary, or you're doing the mantra to your deity, like Krishna or Shiva, then you're keeping these doors open to your own self. And you may not see it happening day to day, but they just say do the practice, and more you'll come to be awakened and assured of this powerful self within you. See, and then you'll be able to live in it without breaks. And here's then another fact about the mantra, which somebody told me just today. I was talking to them, that I was so happy to hear this. When I heard this teaching, I realized that that my doing of the mantra had deeper and deeper implications to it. 3/4 of the mantra is hidden in Mother's form. So the quote here is, when a pure soul repeats the mantra, the holy name bubbles up from within. If you read the Upanishads, there's a Tripura Upanishad, which talks about Tripura Sundari, the beautiful triple aspect of the Mother. And so when you get the mantra from the Guru, that's the first city of Tripura. So it has to do with her outer form. So you get the picture of her. It can be a goddess, or it can be a living goddess like Sri Sharda. And then you get the mantra, and you do the mantra in front of her picture, in front of the picture of that goddess, and you've got you've entered the first city, you see. Then as you've done that, the world goes away. And you'll realize that more and more, how this is the real city, this is the real life. Shall we go back to the quote on Kundalini Yoga? When Kundalini awakens, that's eternal life, right? So that's the moment. And your mind doesn't realize it, and it catches up with it later. You realize what your teacher told you. Oh, this will purify your body first, and so forth. You think back and say, oh boy, when I got that initiation, it was the most auspicious day of my life, because all the gods and goddesses came under my control at that moment. It's a song in India. You'll get the 4 feet of Brahman, Brahmapada, you see. So a very powerful teaching. You can see how mantra just opens up and up and up into deeper and deeper levels of understanding and existence. And you need to go there. So 3/4 of the mantra is hidden in form. So you got 1/4 of it out here on the physical world, Burloka, when you heard the teacher give you that mantra. And then you meditated for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You got the second portion of the mantra in a deeper aspect. That's her in your mind. You saw her out in the picture. Now you saw her in your mind. My teacher said one day on the podium, I'm very happy to have shared with you the picture of Holy Mother in our shrine room. Now I want to share with you her living form in my heart. So this is following the tradition, you see, of how mantras should proceed. And next week I'll have the teachings, the 4 phases of the word for you, and some other teachings that will explain this better. But as a preliminary mention of that, he was saying that he saw her in human form, then he shared that with us in the West later in a picture. But then he said, when you're done with the picture, as it were, then she'll appear to you in your heart. You see, that's this. You see, you're going to a deeper level of the mother's form until finally you merge with her. And so the next assignment here, 1/4 of the mantra is given by the Guru at the time of initiation. I'm going around this in a circle. I probably should have gone to protection, but it's okay if we explain this in this way. The quote there is, the purpose of initiation is to try and realize God through sincere effort. And spiritual efforts will become a little bit more, interior. You'll be doing them in your mind before too long. You'll start with food and senses and the things that probably you should have had together a long time ago, hopefully when you took a birth, and then you'll work in with it, But in this way, it would have been nice if you had, put it this way, if you didn't do that and you were born in confusion in a culture like America, for instance, then you'll find a teacher and you'll get that really important meaning, teaching about working your way towards enlightenment by practice. And it happens by clearing the subconscious mind. I also mentioned this in the first half. Man becomes pure and the mind still by repeating the mantra of God. So one Swami had told me, just repeat some word over and over again, even if it isn't a mantra. What happens? You stop thinking about everything else but that word. So if you then have that word as a power word, a bijam, given to you by an advanced practitioner or by a past master, then how much more is that going to suck all of Maya out of your mind, you see. You're not going to think about anything but that mantra that was just given to me, and your practice for a half hour, an hour or so forth of it with the beads or on your fingers, however, is going to culminate in some deeper and deeper levels of purification, and finally beyond purification to realization. Or you might say revelation and then realization. So as this happens, the mantra provides protection during practice. God's name protects. Instead of losing a leg, one might merely suffer a thorn of the foot. So this was Holy Mother's teaching too. She said, also she put it, where a sword is destined to fall, a pin must prick. You see, so your karma has it that you have some calamity coming your way, and you meet a teacher right about then, and it gives you the mantra, and you start practicing the mantra, and that karma that's coming your way gets diminished, so that only a little bit of it reaches you. It's sort of like a train coming along the tracks in the distance, you see, and you don't know it, and you're sitting there. It's going to come around the bend, you see. That's the train of your karma. But you feel this vibration on the track, you see, and you listen. Oh, there's a train coming. You step away, and one of these high-speed trains goes by. You couldn't have avoided it, you see. So that vibration that you felt was Om, was the Guru wanting to protect you, and listening to the tracks is the mantra, as it were. Say, oh, I have to move, you see. So it informs you of danger coming your way, and then diminishes the effect. Then what you have to suffer later is just thinking about what would have happened if that train had hit you. You have to suffer the pinprick of that, you see. But it's much better than what would have happened if you hadn't have gotten the mantra and practiced it. So this is some of the ingenious teaching she gave. You have to suffer a thorn in the foot. Or she said, you're destined to receive a wound as wide as a plowshare. You see, but instead, all you get is this little cut, you see, as it were. So the mantra then protects you. It actually diminishes the effects of karmas coming your way. And people, of course, aren't going to understand that, and probably might not even know it. That's like saying how many mass murderers we walked by in a crowd in our life, you see, or murderers that killed people, and we walked right by them, and we didn't have any problem with them, you see. So basically, it protects you by guiding you away from the worst of your karmas and the worst of Maya, and putting you in that city of protection that we were just talking about. That's why a quarter of the mantra will give you outer protection, and then 3/4 of the mantra you have to seek for inner realization. So you can see how mantra, putting it together this way, is got all these points, and we covered the whole chart there in a short amount of time to show you about that. So very important to look at this and meditate on each of these things. And there you see, of course, Chaitanya dancing in bliss, and very much known for his support and transmission of the mantra and chanting Lord's name. All very much aligned in that tradition of Vaishnavism. Now, we took about half of our second half's time with that. Let's look back at how you can prepare yourself for mantra practice each day. A very old chart that I put together many years ago, and the colorized version is there. Of course, Ganesha's, the two pillars guarding both. A very, very simple image there with actually Roshig the sweeper bowing before Sri Ramakrishna there that I took out of the original image, and shows how he prostrates himself and prepares himself before he'll even go into the shrine and take out his beads and actually say the Lord's name. He want to have his body and his clothing and his intention and his tongue all purified before he does anything. Light a candle or incense, or offer a flower, or cook some food for the Lord on special plates, and deliver them. He wants to make sure that all this practice that he's done in each day is without error as far as possible, and like a puja. So you can see here the preliminary practices of that you do before mantra and meditation is undertaken. So you have, say you have the mantra, you see, and it's there, but what should you do for even a brief amount of time before you are you just going to grab your wake up, grab your mala and run into the shrine, do your whatever meditation it is, and go out and say, I did my duty, you see. Or there's a more conscious way of setting this up that will benefit you more. Like I say, playing a raga, you have to consider the raga a god that you're trying to appease, and you don't want to upset him or her, or ragini, by playing it wrong. So you had a teacher that taught you how to stay in the mode, how to improvise, how not to play certain notes, how to play certain other notes, and how to put them together in a pleasing way. So it's not about making money or getting famous or whatever, or calling yourself an accomplished musician. It's about adhering to the worship of that particular god that's in that mode of music. And this will allow you to master to a greater degree the art of music, or the art of scripture, or the teachings of the Dharma, or the art of meditation. You wonder why you're not getting anywhere, then possibly you should look at the prerequisites. So here it's all put in one statement. I'll just read it to you. Rising each morning with the desire to engage in the creative process, taking one's bath, prostrating before the deities, chanting one long recitation of Om, praying for the fulfillment of one's aspirations, offering life and soul to God, saluting the Guru and the Gurus of the Guru, and vowing to infuse daily sadhana with verve and vigor. This is the ninefold practice of a sincere aspirant prior to japa of the mantra and formless meditation. So, this is encouraged then by the teachers in the tradition. Traditions that include mantra with them particularly, like the Vedic line, and yoga, and Samkhya, and Tantra, and so forth. Much, of course, in Buddhism and so forth, Jainism, you'll find that these are very important. If you take them one by one, then when they say, rise each morning with the desire to engage in the creative process, then this has to be positive. It's called Nitya Sarga. Waking consciously each day. So you're probably going to want to inform your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state levels. You see, well, the teachers are telling me that I have three bodies that occupy three worlds: gross, subtle, and causal. And so I've helped myself by being informed by this. And they're called Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, you see. So I have three levels of consciousness, three bodies that I experience them with, and this happens to me every 24 hours when I go from waking to dreaming to deep sleep and come out again. So if that's true and I have that kind of information, then I can wake consciously each day, dream consciously each night, and go into deep sleep consciously. And then they say that that connects A, U, and M. You see, because A is waking, U stands for dreaming, and M stands for deep sleep. That's the word, isn't it? All words are in that one word. That's the primal vibration, the unstruck sound. So if I've informed myself that way by meeting my teacher and studying the scriptures and getting a mantra and practicing it, then I'm going to try and make every 24 hours of my day, and the meditation and practice of mantra I do based on it, by doing it all consciously. And sit consciously, talk consciously, eat consciously. All those things then get called up for inspection in the practitioner. And whatever order you put them in, like mana prana sambandha, or walking in the skies and so forth, are just various ways in which you are enforcing and strengthening your ability to do everything consciously, so that you wouldn't allow your mind one lapse. See, oh, I did something unconsciously. Oops. Because, there's a thread and a needle and an eye, you see, and you're trying to pass this thread into the needle, and it won't go. And so you look at it with a microscope or close up, and you see that the end of that thread has little fibers sticking out of it that are keeping it from passing through the needle. So you moisten it, you twist it, and then you try and pass it through. See? So it's that kind of up-close inspection that you're going to have to undergo to find out, number one, why it is that you can't get yourself consciously awakened every day. What is it that's keeping me from waking up with my mantra on my lips? Because I fell asleep with the mantra on my lips before I went to dream. So you're beginning to practice this at all three levels of your life, and all for the purpose of gaining enlightenment, Turiya, the fourth state beyond those three, beyond Om. But if in the beginning was the Word and the Word was with God, those are two things I want to know. But what I really want to do is when the Word was God. That's Turiya. When God and the Word were one thing, before origins began, before creation began, before my lifetimes began in Prakriti and in Maya, I need to know, when I leave formless awareness, which right now for you is deep sleep, that when I come into the worlds of name and form, I need to come into them retaining my consciousness, see. Being aware that the Atman is all awareness, that my soul is perfect, however you want to put this. So spend some time on Nityasarga there. Sanya is purificatory bath and ritual. I mentioned before we ended that it's like going to the Ganga each day. And the man went there and stood in the waters and washed himself and then said his mantra, and his idea was Vashishta. Vashishta lived 2,000 years ago. But as he went into the Ganga that day and the sun was rising and he did his mantra to Vashishta, Vashishta was somewhere way back inside of him in a simultaneously awakened world. And he felt that disciple of him, down on earth in the waking state, repeat the mantra in the holy river, and was pleased and sent him a vision. So that particular day, you see, that disciple of Vashishta got fully awakened standing there in the Ganges River. And he had done that every day, you see. And as the cycles of karma and samskaras and days, and months and years went on, he continued to practice in this way till one day he was blessed with God's grace. Didn't we just say that? It doesn't happen by japa, meditation and worship. But if you don't do japa, meditation and worship, then God's grace can't get through to you. So that he did it all the time, and that one day it opened up to him and he had God's grace. And so long-standing practitioners will attest to this fact, that God's grace comes to them. So you want to leave something like that out of your practice. If you've showered at night, you don't necessarily need a bath in the morning, then sprinkle some Ganges water on you, see, from head to foot, and go in and sit. Now, I've done my bath now, you see, but just make sure the mind knows that it did that practice. Because by not knowing that it did it, that's a thread sticking out of, a fiber sticking out of that thread, you see. Why wasn't my meditation so conscious? Oh, I didn't do that one thing consciously, you see. Pranams is next, like Rashik is doing down there at the foot of these two pillars to Ganesha. Prostrations at the altar. So you come in and you don't just throw your pillow there and sit and start, meditating or do the mantra. You come in seeing the divine presence in the altar. That's the picture has been worshipped and placed there by your guru, or hopefully by yourself in your home altar, with certain etiquette behind it. And before you even offer a flower or incense or open up, you do your prostration. pranam. You see, it has the word prana in it. You see, so you do your pranams. Then Durga Pranava. That's one recitation of Om, long Om. So you don't have to sit there and do many Oms. You just center yourself, breathe, then breathe in one deep breath and pronounce Om as it rolls out the palate. Swami Vivekananda has a good way of telling you how to do that and how it happens. And then you end with a long M, you see. You balance it out so that these three letters, which signify waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, get uttered once at the beginning of every day. See? And that's so much more beneficial than doing a salute to the sun, you see. It's because it's coming from the source. It's not your body that's doing this particular position that you think is good, and you're looking at the physical sun and there's all these things in the way. You're going straight to the source and uttering this long recitation of Om, sitting there on a pillow like Buddha did for 49 days and Christ did for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, hearing the word and then repeating it here for the highest good of all beings on earth. See? So Dirga Pranava then would help you awaken that. Prapati is next. Now, it seems like, boy, I'm taking an hour before I even get to japa, but this can all be done in a couple minutes, including this prayer for fulfillment. If you know what you want out of life, that is, you want eternal life, for instance, or you want to get rid of a particular imperfection in you, or you want to dissolve a certain karma that's plaguing you, or you want your mind to stop brooding, whatever it is, that will be your prayer for fulfillment from that particular obstacle or to attain that particular goal. So you have to be flexible in your mind and offer yourself. That's why you bow first pranam, you say the Om, and then you offer your life to God. You pray for fulfillment, and then samarpana, you offer your life to God. Every day you do this. Because you got initiation from your teacher, right? And so we used to hear like Six and our founders say that, this initiation has to be enacted every day. It'd be better if it did every minute. You reminded yourself, I'm a noble child of God, you see. I'm the son and daughter of the Lord and the mother of the universe. As many times as that can happen in your day, whether you're working out in the world or whether you're you're working internally at home or in your practice, it would be nice to remind your mind of that every day. That's the benefit of, shall we go back? Repetition, you see. It's the benefit of repetition. And you dedicate the soul to God, your Purusha. You do a sacrifice to that. So at satsang, live satsang yesterday, I was talking to an Indian woman and her new husband, which happened to be my niece, my nephew, and talking to them, and I asked her, what did you do at home when you were raised in India? And she kept saying yagya, yagya. So I said, oh, you mean like the 5 yagyas of worship, devoting yourself and doing yagya to the rishis, the great teachers, and to the gods, and to the ancestors, and to the Bhutas, the plants and animals around you. You do this sacrifice, and to mankind, Nara Yagya. So this is what you learned at home, and you went to temple every day to do that. You see, so I said that's marvelous. That's a really good religious life that people in India still live in villages, because she was born in a village. So this was all something that was very beautiful to hear, and affirming for something that a Westerner might want to enliven their practice and awaken their religion, awaken to the meaning of their life with. So again, something that you can do in 15 seconds, you see. Oh, Mother, we take refuge at thy feet. Bless us with pure love, pure knowledge. I'm stunned, I did it. I did it again today. I'll do it again tomorrow. you see. And it just takes a few seconds. But it's a part of your ongoing practice. And then you have Guru Pranam. Salutes one's Guru. Shall I do it for you in our tradition? I'm Guru Bhyo Namaha. I'm Paramaguru Bhyo Namaha. I'm Parapara Guru Bhyo Namaha. I'm Paramesti Guru Bhyo Namaha. I'm Ganashaya Namaha. Om Ganashaya Namaha. And Om Aim Hring Sarvadeva Devi Swarapaya Sharda Ramakrishna Vivekanandaya Namo Namaha. So you've done all your gurus. How long did that take me? Let's see, 10 seconds? But you do this as you sit there, and this is all before you do your mantra with your japa beads, so your japa mala. So all of these 8 things have just led you up to saluting your gurus. You want to remember them. Isn't that part of that yagya we just talked about? Rishi yagya, you see. So you fulfilled that in a few seconds, but you're doing it every day, and you're doing it hopefully with feeling and with knowledge, intelligence, you see. And then you enter into your sadhana, which part of that is mantra, right? Mantra is a part of your sadhana, your spiritual practice. And so you vow, and this is in line with what I just said, hopefully you're doing it with feeling. So you vow to infuse your practice with enthusiasm, because your life drags on, work drags on, upbringing is there, society is there making its errors, violence in the world, everyone's entering into all these fields of action with wrong orientation and or uninformed as to the deeper meaning of life, and probably even short of that, which would be nice, actually doing, inflicting acts of good stupefaction on others. If you want to put that the way Lord Vashishta did, or I'm sorry, Lord Kapila did, that there's acts of bad stupefaction and then there's acts of good stupefaction. So all of these things you want to be protected from, you know, which is back to how the mantra does protect you. Right up here, you see, gives you protection while you do the practice, and then leads to higher and deeper things. So you vow to infuse sadhana with enthusiasm. And if you do that at the end of this 9-point practice, then your mind won't let you forget that when, because of all these things I just listed, you become bored, or you become depressed, or you become divested of your prana, you see. Sleepy and restless and so forth. And you say to yourself, your mind says to yourself, well, remember, you vowed to me, you know, to infuse everything with enthusiasm. Utsaha is the word. So utsaha vrata. There is a perfect way to end this class today, because it's a power word, you see. Utsaha vrata. They want you to take a vow of enthusiasm about your spiritual path. You need to participate in your own awakening and not just leave it to chance. Will God's grace come? Oh, I'll just depend on God's grace. Well, let's rewind everything back to the first chart, you see. And she said at the very top, God's grace will come if you qualify yourself via japa, worship, and meditation. See? That's when God's grace will come. So all of these things are then ways of reminding the mind to participate in its own awakening, and hopefully never to have to awaken again. That's called yogic insomnia, by our founder Lex Sixon. May we always have that kind of awakening and keep it, so that we remain ever awake. The state of ever awakeness called yogic insomnia. See, and we can always be our true self and live without breaks and errors and leaks in the vessel. Sri Ramakrishna said, you have this clay vessel, it's got honey in it, but there's a few cracks in the old vessel, you see, and you don't know it, but you come later and pick up the vessel and there's all this honey has leaked out, and you didn't retain it all, you see. So that's the problem of people's body-mind mechanisms having these cracks in them, where prana can leak out, and your peace can leak out, and even your bliss, which is destined to come to you, can leak out of that vessel. So in this way, we practice our sadhana, which is well then informed by these 4 charts we took today. 2 great ways by Swami Vivekananda's teachings and Lord Vashishta that we had in the first half, and then fundamental facts about the mantra with this prerequisite way of doing a 9-point, maybe 5 or 10 minute, practice, preliminary practice, before you even pick up the beads. You see, and begin to say your mantra, or do it on your hand and so forth. So this is a good place to leave off our first class, and meet next Sunday for the second class in this series of mantra, and get this all on tape for people too, in our culture and for the future, so that people, when they come to this great Vedic way, tantric way, yogic way, and will have all the information they need to find themselves the right scriptures, the right teacher, and the right mantra to help them reach the goal of human existence. So here, let's end with our final Sanskrit chant. Om Tachnayo, Om Tachnayo Ravrini Mahe, Gatong Yagyaya, Gatong Ye Nupataye, Daivi Svastrastu Naha, Svastir Manasebhyaha, Urdvam Jagatu Bhesajam, Sangnoastu Dvipade Sangjatushpate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Come and let us make a humble and sincere offering of the small self into the great self. May we always delight in this offering, and may we always revere the Lord and Mother of all sacrifices, all yagyas. May divine blessings be upon us. May peace come into the human race. May healing, well-being, and prosperity also then abide among us. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us. May peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.
Icha hoy torjaya chari Guru Dada Mahamantra Ivanishi Chapakori Monopoli Pajakari Icha hoy torjaya chari Guru Dada Mahamantra Ivanishi Chapakori Yoga